The research vessel Eos Dawn drifted quietly around a dying red star. Its hull gleamed faintly in the light, reflecting the deep crimson glow that filled the endless black of space. Inside, everything hummed with a steady rhythm, the sound of machines doing their endless work, and the faint echoes of human life moving through metal corridors. Commander Elias Ward walked slowly through the main deck. He was tall, calm, and had the kind of presence that made people feel safe even when everything else seemed uncertain. His uniform was plain, marked only by a silver badge that caught the soft light. He liked silence. It helped him think. Out here, silence was not an absence. It was part of the universe itself. Dr. Lyra Sen stood by the main observation window, her eyes focused on the red star outside. She was a physicist, one of the best, but unlike most scientists, she carried warmth in her words. Her short dark hair floated slightly in the low gravity, and her eyes were full of restless curiosity. "The readings don't make sense," she said softly. "The star should be collapsing, but the energy waves are rhythmic, almost like a pattern." Elias stepped closer, watching the glowing lines on her screen. "A pattern?" he asked. "You mean something intelligent?" Lyra nodded slightly. "It repeats every 42 seconds. Not like a natural pulse, more like a signal." Elias leaned against the console, thoughtful. Humanity had found strange things across the stars, but very few that felt alive. "Run another scan," he said. "Let's see if it reacts to us." Lyra smiled faintly, fingers gliding over the console. She adjusted the scanner's frequency and spoke softly, almost as if speaking to the star itself. "If anyone is out there," she said, "we're listening." The screen blinked. Once, twice. Then every light on the console froze. For a moment, the ship went perfectly still. The hum of engines stopped. The lights dimmed and the sound of air faded away. Elias felt his heartbeat slow, his breath caught midair. Then, just as suddenly, everything came back. The hum returned. The lights flickered to life. Lyra's hands trembled. "Did you feel that?" Elias nodded slowly. Time skipped. She stared at him. "That's not possible." The instruments. Before she could finish, the ship's alarm buzzed sharply, then died mid-tone. Every sound ended at once. The red lights on the walls froze. A pen floated beside Lyra's shoulder, unmoving in the air. Elias looked around. The ship, the air, even the light, everything had stopped. "Lyra," he said. His voice echoed strangely. She turned toward him, eyes wide. "Elias, everyone else is frozen." They moved through the control room. Crew members stood like statues, one with a cup halfway to his lips, another leaning over a console that no longer blinked. Outside the window, the red star seemed locked in place, its fire frozen mid-flicker. Lyra's heart pounded. "We're caught in some kind of time field," she whispered. "Only we can move." Elias tested his communicator. Bridge to engineering, nothing. Static and then silence. He looked at Lyra. "Why us?" "I don't know," she said. "But it started when we spoke to the signal. Maybe we triggered something, or maybe it's testing us." They walked together down the corridor past the silent crew. The air felt heavy, like the universe itself was holding its breath. Their footsteps echoed faintly, the only sound left in the ship. When they reached the main observation deck, Lyra pressed her hand against the glass. The red star burned motionless, its flares hanging in space like frozen fire. A faint shimmer pulsed across its surface, a heartbeat made of light. She turned to Elias. "That's the pattern. It's still repeating. But time isn't moving," he said. "Maybe. It doesn't need time to speak." Elias studied her face. She looked calm, but her eyes betrayed wonder and fear. "If it's communication," he said, "then maybe it's waiting for a response." She nodded. "Let's try something." They returned to the console. Lyra placed her palm on the interface, the red glow reflecting off her skin. She spoke softly again. "We can't understand you." "But we want to." Nothing happened. She exhaled and stepped back. Elias thought for a moment, then did something unexpected. He reached out and took her hand. Lyra froze. For a second, their eyes met. Two humans standing against the silence of the universe. And then everything changed. The red glow around them brightened, flooding the room. The frozen dust motes in the air began to drift again. Somewhere deep in the ship, a low hum returned, weak but alive. The pen that had hung motionless began to fall, landing softly on the console. Lyra gasped. "Elias, it's moving again." He didn't let go of her hand. "It started when I touched you." The ship trembled and the scanners lit up once more. The pattern on the screen shifted, no longer random but organized like words written in light. Lyra translated the sequence quickly, her voice shaking. It's saying, "Connection stabilizes reality." Elias frowned. "Connection? You mean us?" Before she could answer, a deep vibration rolled through the ship. Outside, something massive appeared, a black shape emerging slowly from behind the red star. It wasn't a ship, not like any human design. It was a structure, ancient and silent, covered in strange symbols that pulsed with faint silver light. Lyra whispered, "It's responding to us." The shape drifted closer, surrounded by a halo of stillness. Space around it looked wrong, stretched, distorted, like time itself bent to avoid it. Elias's instincts screamed danger, but curiosity held him still. "What is that?" Lyra shook her head. "Something older than our understanding. Maybe it's been waiting for someone to find it." The closer it came, the heavier the air felt. The walls of the ship creaked softly, and Elias could feel the pressure in his chest, not from gravity but from something deeper, something that wasn't supposed to exist. He looked at Lyra again. "If we let go, what happens?" She hesitated. "Maybe everything stops again." He squeezed her hand gently. "Then we don't." For a moment, nothing moved but them. The rest of reality seemed to pause, watching. The massive structure outside emitted another pulse, or this one slow and deliberate. The red light flickered. Lyra felt a wave of warmth spreading from their joined hands. She could feel not just the touch, but his heartbeat, his calm strength. It was strange. The closer they stood, the more the universe seemed to breathe again. The computer, dead for so long, flickered to life. Words appeared on the cracked screen. Human resonance detected. Temporal balance restored, and partially. Awaiting stabilization event. Lyra read the words aloud, her voice shaking. "It's waiting for something else. Maybe for us to understand why this is happening." Elias looked at her, then at the frozen stars beyond the glass. "We're inside something's experiment." Lyra nodded slowly. "Or its memory." The ship groaned again, and a faint sound, almost like a heartbeat, filled the air. Outside, the red star pulsed once more, its light moving again for just a second. Then everything froze once more, except for them. The object drifted even closer, now filling the entire viewport. Its surface shimmered with lines that looked almost alive. For the first time, Elias felt something impossible, as if the structure was watching them. Lyra whispered, "Elias, it's moving against time." He tightened his grip on her hand. "Then we hold on." The red glow dimmed. For a heartbeat, everything fell silent again, the kind of silence that felt older than the stars themselves. But between their hands, something small and powerful stirred. Warmth, connection, life. And in that single moment, as two humans held hands aboard a silent ship orbiting a dead star, the universe seemed to tremble, as if remembering what it meant to move. The object outside the Eos dawn hung like a sleeping giant, half hidden behind the red star's glow. Its surface shimmered with strange silver symbols that seemed to move even though time itself was still broken. Elias and Lyra stood at the observation window, their hands still locked together, afraid to let go. "It's reacting to us," Lyra whispered. Her voice echoed faintly in the silent control room. "Every time we move closer, those markings shift. It's almost like it's trying to talk." Elias nodded slowly. His jaw was tense, but his tone stayed calm. "Then let's listen." Lyra adjusted the scanner again, though the ship's systems barely functioned. The screen flickered weakly, lines of alien script appearing in bursts. Each time their hands touched, the signal grew stronger. "Look," she said. "It's reading our presence, human life signatures." Elias frowned. "Out here? No one should even know what human readings look like." The computer buzzed faintly and displayed 3 simple words. "Human connection detected." The air felt heavier. The lights on the ceiling glowed faintly blue instead of red. Lyra's eyes widened. "It's not just a signal. It's a reaction. Whatever this thing is, and it understands us." They stepped back, still holding hands. The structure outside began to turn slowly. The motion was unnatural, like it was moving through a thick layer of reality itself. Elias watched, his soldier's instincts alert, but curiosity won over fear. "Lyra," he said quietly, "I think it wants us to come closer." Lyra hesitated. "We don't even know what it is. It could be dangerous." He looked out into the void. Everything unknown is dangerous until we face it. She smiled faintly. You sound like an old space commander from the history files. He smirked. Maybe they were right. They walked toward the shuttle bay. Every corridor was still frozen in time. Crew members stood motionless like living statues. One engineer's wrench hovered above the floor. Lyra stopped to look at them. I wonder if they'll even remember this, she said. Elias's voice was quiet. Maybe they won't, but if we fail, they'll never move again. The shuttle bay doors opened slowly. Beyond them, the ancient structure loomed larger than before. It wasn't metal, not exactly. It looked like woven light and stone. Patterns pulsed across its surface, forming symbols that felt half alive. They entered the small shuttle and guided it forward manually. As they crossed the invisible barrier around the structure, the shuttle's instruments came alive for the first time since time stopped. Lyra gasped. Power levels are stable again. The time field is weaker here. Elias gripped the controls. Whatever this place is, it's different from normal space. When they landed on the surface, the shuttle's lights reflected off smooth crystal walls that seemed to breathe. The air shimmered faintly, and for a moment Lyra thought she heard whispers. Not words, but feelings, like echoes of thought. This place is alive, she said softly. Elias drew a deep breath. Then it's been waiting a long time. They stepped out together. The moment their feet touched the ground, the surface lit up beneath them, forming glowing paths leading toward a central doorway. Lyra bent down and touched the floor. This isn't technology like ours. It feels emotional. He gave her a puzzled look. Emotional? She nodded. Every pulse, every pattern reacts to us, to our heartbeat, our touch. It's measuring feelings, not data. Elias was quiet for a moment. Maybe that's why only we can move. Maybe whatever stopped time only responds to human emotion. As they followed the glowing path, the walls began to change. Images appeared, moving scenes of tall, graceful beings made of light and crystal. They stood in large cities surrounded by swirling stars. Lyra recognized the patterns instantly. The Seraphis, she whispered, an ancient civilization mentioned in old deep space records. They tried to control time itself. Elias watched the glowing figures fade. What happened to them? They disappeared, she said. Nobody ever found out how or why. They reached the central chambers, a vast room shaped like a sphere. At its center floated a structure that looked like a heart made of glass, surrounded by silver rings. Lines of light ran from the walls into the core, pulsing faintly with each beat. Lyra walked closer. This is it, the source of the time field. Elias studied the walls. More alien symbols appeared, forming new words. Lyra read them out loud as they glowed. Emotion resonance required for temporal balance. Connection sustains flow. She looked up at Elias. They built this to control time through emotion. Not machines, not logic, feeling. Elias frowned. That sounds impossible, she smiled faintly. And yet here we are, proving it's real. They stood close to the heart-shaped core. The light pulsed faster, reacting to their presence. Then from the shadows above, something began to move. A dark shape formed, like smoke gathering into a figure. It had no solid body, but a face shimmered within it, cold and distant. The voice that came from it was deep and layered, echoing through the chamber. You should not have come, it said. Lyra stepped back in shock. Who are you? The shadow replied, We are the memory of the Seraphis. We became one with time. Use humans, bring imbalance. You feel, and that corrupts order. Elias raised his voice. You froze the universe. To protect it, the entity said. We mastered time until it consumed us. Emotion was chaos. It ended our kind. Now it ends you. The air grew colder. The lights dimmed. The heartbeat of the core slowed. Lyra shook her head. You're wrong. Feeling isn't chaos. It's life, the shadow hissed softly. Life brings decay. Elias stepped forward. Without emotion, what's left worth saving? The entity moved closer, its voice growing sharper. You think your connection gives you strength? It is weakness. You cannot hold time together with feeling. Elias didn't flinch. Then why does it respond to us? The shadow hesitated. The heart-shaped core pulsed once and stronger, as if answering him. Lyra took Elias's hand again. The light from the core brightened instantly, flooding the chamber. The shadow twisted in pain. Stop, it cried. You do not understand what you awaken. The walls around them flashed with visions. The fall of the Seraphis, their world collapsing into stillness. their people turning into pure thought. Lyra could feel their despair like a cold wind. They lost everything because they forgot how to feel, she said quietly. They turned time into a cage. Elias held her hand tighter. Then maybe it's time humanity set it free. The light grew brighter. The shadow lunged toward them, its form unraveling. Elias felt his mind pulled into strange visions, flashes of his past, his fears, his failures. He saw Earth burning, ships falling, the endless silence of space. Lyra saw something else. The future, maybe. A world where humans had become as cold and emotionless as the Seraphis. She heard a voice whisper, "Don't lose what makes you human." She screamed Elias's name, but he was already fading into the vision. The shadow wrapped around him, whispering lies, that he had failed, that his emotions were weakness. Lyra ran forward through the blinding light. "Elias, listen to me." He stood frozen, lost in the illusion. She reached for him, pushing through waves of shimmering air. Her hand trembled, reaching closer and closer until her fingers brushed his. The instant they touched, the universe cracked. A blinding flash filled the chamber. The shadow screamed as cracks of light tore through its form. The heart-shaped core flared with white fire, the sound of rushing air returning after endless stillness. Elias gasped as the illusion broke. He looked at Lyra, her eyes glowing faintly from the reflected light. She smiled weakly. "You came back," he nodded slowly. "You called me." The light filled the entire structure, reaching far beyond. Outside, the red star pulsed, one heartbeat then another. The Eos dawn vibrated, systems flickering to life one by one. Lyra turned toward the glowing core. "It's stabilizing time again, but only partially." Elias looked around. "What happens now?" The alien voice returned, softer this time. Emotion restored the flow. "Humanity is dangerous, but necessary." Then the voice faded, and the light dimmed. Lyra stood quietly beside Elias. The structure was still but peaceful. She whispered, "We didn't destroy it. We healed it," he nodded. "Maybe that's what it wanted all along, to remember what it lost." The universe outside began to move again, slow but steady. The frozen stars shone once more. Lyra took a deep breath. "What now?" Elias looked at the glowing core one last time. "Now, we finish what they couldn't." He took her hand again, and together they stepped toward the light. The heart-shaped core pulsed faintly, filling the chamber with soft white light. Elias and Lyra stood side by side, hands still intertwined. The alien shadow of the Seraphis had vanished, leaving only echoes of its warnings behind. Outside, the red star's glow returned fully, but the universe around them still felt fragile. Lyra glanced at Elias. "We stabilized it partially, but it's not finished. Time is still fragile. One wrong step and—" Elias squeezed her hand. "Then we stepped carefully together." They began to explore the chamber, walking along the glowing pathways. Each step caused the light to ripple beneath their feet, as if the structure itself was reacting to their presence. Symbols on the walls shifted gently, almost like a heartbeat syncing with theirs. "It's like the whole place is alive," Lyra whispered. "It senses us, feels us, responds to us," Elias nodded. "And it's teaching us. It wants us to understand something, why humans matter." At the center of the chamber, the core floated suspended, surrounded by the pulsing rings. Lines of silver light connected it to the walls, flowing through the chamber like veins. The entire structure seemed to vibrate in harmony with their joined hands. Lyra stepped closer. "If we can link ourselves to it, really connect, maybe we can finish what it started." Elias tilted his head. "You mean, use our own emotions?" "Yes," she said firmly. "The Seraphis failed because they tried to control time with logic, with machines. But time responds to feelings, to connection, to humanity." He looked into her eyes, then down at their hands. For a moment, the silence felt endless, the universe itself holding its breath. "If this works, we could restore everything," Lyra nodded. "Or fail completely. But I trust us." With care, they stepped closer to the core. The rings of light began to spin slowly, faster with each heartbeat. The chamber hummed louder, vibrating through their bodies. The air shimmered, making their skin tingle as if electricity flowed through the walls themselves. Lyra spoke softly, almost a whisper. "Focus on each other. Let everything else fade. Your fear, your doubts. Just feel this moment." Elias inhaled slowly. "I'm with you." Their hands touched the core's light. Warmth surged through them, radiating outward. The structure pulsed in response, brighter and brighter until it filled the entire chamber. Outside, the universe flickered. Stars shimmered, comets froze mid-flight, and the ship's systems buzzed wildly. A vision suddenly appeared around them. They were no longer in the chamber, but floating in space, surrounded by fragments of time itself. Past and future collided. Ancient planets forming, stars dying, galaxies spinning out of existence. They saw human history flash before them. Explorers on Mars, colonies on distant moons, the first interstellar ships leaving Earth. This is everything, Lyra whispered. All of humanity. Every choice, every feeling, every connection we ever made. Elias felt a surge of awe. It's beautiful, but fragile, like it could shatter at any second. From the swirling fragments, a faint figure appeared, the memory of the Seraphis. Its form shimmered like broken light. You cannot sustain this, it whispered. You are chaos, you are ephemeral. Lyra stepped forward, her hand still gripping Elias's. We are ephemeral, she said. But that is our strength. Feeling, love, hope. It's what keeps life moving. It's what you lost. The Seraphis memory hesitated, its light flickering. Humans, you are different. You feel connection. And yet survive? Elias spoke, voice steady. Yes, and that's why time listens to us. Because we don't just think and we care. We fight, we hope. That is why humanity matters. The core pulsed in agreement. Lines of light shot outward, touching the floating fragments of time. The Seraphis memory screamed, twisting as the fragments began to shift back into order. Past mistakes, lost worlds, frozen stars, all began moving in harmony. Lyra felt the pull of energy through her body. It was exhilarating and terrifying. Hold on to me, she whispered. We have to do this together. Elias nodded, closing his eyes. He focused on her hand, on the warmth, on the connection between them. Slowly, carefully, they let their shared feelings flow into the core. Fear, hope, courage, trust, all of it poured outward. The pulsing rings of light expanded, wrapping around the entire structure. Outside the chamber, the Eos Dawn trembled as systems rebooted fully. Crew members gasped for air, blinking as if waking from a dream. The red star pulsed brightly, its dying light strengthened by the new flow of time. Inside the chamber, the core glowed blindingly white. The Seraphis memory shrieked once more, then dissolved into sparks of silver light that scattered across the chamber. Its last words whispered faintly, Emotion is the universe, remembering itself. The vision around Elias and Lyra began to fade. Fragments of past and future returned to their proper place. Stars resumed their natural motion. The galaxy outside the viewport was alive again, moving in its steady rhythm. Lyra sank to her knees, exhausted but smiling. Elias knelt beside her. We did it, he said softly. Yes, she whispered. We really did. The core dimmed slowly, becoming a calm, steady glow. Lines of silver light faded into the walls. The structure felt peaceful, like a living being finally at rest. Elias helped Lyra to her feet. Together they walked back toward the shuttle. Each step felt lighter than before, the weight of the universe now gentle, almost familiar. Outside, the red star's light reflected across the surface. Elias gazed at it. Do you think it remembers us? Lyra smiled faintly. Maybe. Or maybe it just remembers what we are. Humans who care, who connect, who hold on even when the universe tries to stop us. He reached for her hand again. Then for a moment, the world did stop, and we showed it what it means to live. The shuttle doors opened, leading back to the surface. Beyond them, the galaxy stretched in every direction, alive and vibrant once more. Stars twinkled, comets moved freely, and planets rotated with perfect rhythm. The Eos Dawn was fully operational now. Systems showed normal readings, navigation restored. Crew members emerged from their frozen states, unaware of the danger that had almost ended them. But Elias and Lyra knew. They had changed the universe, even if no one else remembered how. As they returned to the ship, Lyra looked out the viewport one last time at the ancient structure. Do you think it will stay peaceful now? Elias squeezed her hand. We made sure of it. For now, at least. But the universe will always test humanity. That's its way of learning. And ours, Lyra nodded. Then let's keep moving forward, together. The ship's engines hummed. Stars rushed past as the Eos Dawn left the red star behind. Elias glanced at Lyra, and for a moment the weight of their adventure faded. replaced by a quiet understanding. That connection, courage, and hope could shape reality itself. He held her hand tightly. "No matter what comes next, we face it together," Lyra smiled, leaning slightly against him. "And for a moment, the world will always stop for us." The red star faded behind them, but its light seemed to linger in the minds of the two humans who had reminded the universe that life, feeling, and connection were stronger than time itself. Above the horizon of space, the stars continued their dance. But somewhere in the echoes of eternity, a heartbeat remained. A human heartbeat, steady, strong, and unbroken. And in that moment, humanity had reminded the cosmos why it mattered.